thought we might move from the cloud track and talk something that we've touched on just a little bit here today, which is software defined, right? If you can't pick up a trade rag or look at a news article today without hearing something about software defined architecture, services, systems. So I thought we might head a little bit down that track and talk about some of the do's, don'ts, goods and bads of that particular approach. In specific regards to software defined networking, I'd like to talk about some of the pros and cons from each of your perspectives. Would like to take a first shot.
Sure. Yeah, this is Derek. I'll go first on this. So, software-defined network, everyone's seen or heard about SDN. I think if we probably took a poll or took a survey of what each of you thought that SDN was, I'd probably get 200 different answers about what that is. Unfortunately, us as vendors have kind of every vendor has kind of defined it for themselves. So if we just kind of throw the term out, and just start over with what's the business reality for you. The business reality for you is about how do I make an operationally efficient network that will reduce my costs and, as we spoke about earlier, make it so that I can implement changes that happen in my business in a very quick basis. So how do I implement those things quickly? So early on with SDN, with software-defined networking, you heard about things called open flow, not OpenStack, but open flow, and there was all this work that was talked about, some things that was done at Stanford University and things that were done at Google, and everybody had these visions of buying these, $50 network appliances, and I can scatter those on my network and throw some code on it, and it's just going to be this great network. So now over a period of time, people have figured out, well, that doesn't really work, does it? So all of those millions of R&D dollars into switching and networking technology actually had a purpose behind it. So at Juniper, part of what we've done is and there's a talk that's going to be in a little bit later after this, and one of the keynote presentations is around software-defined networking. At Juniper, we have it today. It exists today. It isn't something that you have to wait or get some new SKU for in the future.
It's not on the roadmap?
It's not on the roadmap. It's actually alive, and you can actually buy it today. It's already deployed at over 400 large-scale, or 40 large-scale networks already have been deployed since the release that we did in the just a few months ago. And so we'll be talking a little bit more detail about that. To you, the impact of it is that you can take your existing network infrastructures, your existing IP network infrastructure. This is an overlay environment that you can then put in on top of it that works in a virtualized environment and has virtual router technology that will allow you to then use something like an OpenStack, from a management platform to then dynamically reconfigure your network to meet the changing demands on your network system. And so it's not vaporware, it's not something that's maybe going to come someday. And then on top of that, we didn't just take it and productize it. We actually now have it available as an open source application as well. And so this is something that other vendors can also adopt, and anyone within the open source community can use it. So it's changing a lot. It used to be you had to buy one vendor's, the whole point of SDN was to be this open specifications and open standards. So everyone who's implemented something so far on the networking side has given you a proprietary solution, right? So this is the first technology that's out there that's completely open specification, open standard that can work across a heterogeneous network environment. And again, the promise of SDN is how do I make it so that you can quickly modify or change services.
Great. Anybody else want to share on software-defined networking? I think Derek's the regional expert on that particular piece. He's got a great position on it.
Yeah. Well, maybe just to
Please.
add, if my mic is on here, it's really looking at taking out the complexity, as you mentioned. I mean, as you're thinking about a data center like Scale Matrix here today, there are how many customers here? At least maybe 100?
Here at the show tonight, there's at least 100.
Well, I said in the data center.
Several hundred on the floor.
Several hundred. So with that level of scale, they need to have very strong management and capabilities of being able to integrate and had those changes that you talked about earlier that only take a few seconds. And so we really need to get the hardware and the dynamic of having that break fix out of it and getting to more of a manageable process. And that's what the software-defined era is all about, is just trying to take software, networking, storage, all of the data center activities and reducing the amount of time to put those out for a customer to use.
Okay. So another big key buzzing word, right, around software-defined is software-defined storage. Would folks at Nexenta maybe share a little bit about that approach?
Yeah, I'll have a go at that one. I mean, that's what we do. Is that Mike?
Here he comes.
Is that what we do? Yep, there we go. Our company does software-defined storage. That's all we do. We've been doing this for about 5 years. We have about 5,000 customers around the world doing this. I think the question was what the benefits. It's basically flexibility. If you split the hardware away from the software, you can drive down the cost of the hardware. We love our friends at Dell, but if for any reason you don't like Dell or they're not the right company for you, you can move our software to HP or to Supermicro or whoever you want. So it's the flexibility of being able to split the hardware from the software. And the other thing is that in 3 years' time, when you want to if you use a Dell server, maybe it's a Dell 720 today, in 3 years' time that server is getting a little old, you need a 730 or whatever it is, you just move the software across. You're not buying that software again. So this is saving obviously a huge amount of money, and our average customer is saving 60-70% over buying solutions from the traditional legacy vendors like EMC and NetApp. So that's a CapEx saving. The other big thing is OpEx. I was actually yesterday with Fidelity, which is one of our big financial customers. They trained 8 people in their data center and their support center in India, and now they have systems, they've got systems which are all SSD, giving them maybe hundreds of thousands of IOPS in a 2U server, and they'll have another system which is full of 4 terabyte drives with, I don't know, maybe a petabyte of storage in it. They're all running the same software. If you go to, once again, the legacy vendors, you're going to buy 3 or 4 different systems to solve those different problems. And all those systems are going to have different managers. You're going to have to train different people. That's a huge OpEx cost. So if you're saving on CapEx and you're saving on OpEx, the benefit is you're saving a lot of money.